Hey, good. How are you?
Awesome, awesome. It's a beautiful Tuesday, and we have nice bright yellow color from Anita, bring a little sunshine and laughter to us. Um, so welcome everyone. Welcome Anita.
Thank you. Hi, Sarah. Now, are you in Florida also, Sarah?
Yep.
Yes, yes,
Oh
I'm in
my gosh.
Florida.
Do y'all live near each other?
No, we're about almost 2 hours away apart from each other. She's by
Yeah,
the shore out in close by to Clearwater, Tampa area.
Nice.
And I'm
uh,
I'm closer to Orlando area. So, but it doesn't matter. It just seems like you and her at the same place because it's through the screen and I see you guys. So you are as close as I wanted to be and as far as it could be. So I'm gonna let Sarah introduce her, and then I'm gonna chime in with a little bit of my background, so the audience that who watch us for the first time know who we are, and then we're gonna pass the mic to you and ask you to introduce a little bit about yourself and your story, and share with us what do you want to share.
sure. Yes. Hello, everyone. It's good to be back again. It's only from yesterday, right? So,
Yes.
but for a new viewer, welcome. If you never heard my introduction, I'm just want to go very quickly. I am from Cambodia. I grew up there and grew up in the farm area and enjoy my childhood um, in the natural setting until I reached college age. I went to college, and college is far away from home, far away from family. And while I was in college, terrible thing happened in Cambodia, and you probably can guess what it was. When the communists took over our country, they totally destroyed our country and destroyed us. Our life went to broken like like a like a glass broken. So I was struggling through the system, almost did not make it, but only by the grace of God that I survived. Out of 2 million people that die, I am grateful that I'm here. So when I survived, I was able to escape out of the country. Again, that's another miracle. I escaped through the jungle, and Lee can tell that story better than me. My jungle journey, I could step on the landmine anytime, but God protected me. I was safe. I arrived at the refugee camp and finally found my way to United States. So since I'm here, I enjoy the freedom, enjoy the lifestyle that I never expect. So I'm all around, I'm grateful. Even though in this situation, I'm still grateful because when I look back how far I came from, there is no comparison. So we are here to share the encouragement, the inspiration from the point of view from the people that gone through hard time, and how can we learn from that difficult situation. So that's all I want to say. But I wrote my story in the book. This is my book. You probably have a hard time seeing it. It's How I Survived the Killing Fields. It's available on my website, sarahim.com. So
Thank you, Sarah.
well,
Thank you. So at every single end of the story, there's a beginning. And that's what we are embarking on, the beginning of 2021. And 2020 was, I would say that for a lot of people, it's a horrible year. For some to actually grapple onto a lot of new norm, new opportunities, and new ways to thrive on whatever way that they can find. um so my stories also begin um and end many times, like your beginning is always up to you how you want to make a new beginnings. So my beginning was when I was born in Vietnam. again, the same thing, communists took over when I was a teenager, and we escaped out of the country, and many no beginnings over, you know, it's just like escape death and then get a new beginning at the refugee camp and survive the refugee camp and establish another new beginning in the United States, and end one career, start another. So there's always a new beginnings for us. And I also told my story on the TEDx stage. And yesterday I just found out that it got featured on the new, not the new, the big TED platform. So I was really excited. I don't know what criteria they pick and choose.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But that was a surprise because somebody else posted, one of my coach, my friend posted, and I just realized that's not just a regular YouTube. That was on the big TED platform. So that is a new beginning for me in a sense that I feel my self-worth a little more. It just, you know, it's just funny how little things can make us happy, or sometimes, you know, something big to us, but it's not that big to other people. But that's okay. And so anyhow, the theme of this month is always about encouraging us to look forward with a new beginning, because we can't just keep look back in the past, folks. The rear mirror is just for us to look back, to reflect, so we can see further in the front. Um, and today, that's what I would like Anita to tell us, how she see her front view mirror instead more of her rear view mirror, because everybody have a beautiful past, a tragic past, you know, all kind of past. But that is a point of reference for you, so you can actually move on. You should not get stuck where you were in the past, because you will never be able to let loose and go to a new place called future or beginnings. So Anita, I my heart just, you know, joke when I heard you tell the story at one another networking that about what you found out at a certain stage in your life. So if you don't mind, share with us, your audience, about, you know, a little bit of about your background, and then tell us the surprise, the story, that what you have found out, that you never thought that you have, that,
Sure.
you know.
I'll do my best. There's so much, so I'll try to hit the good points first. So it all started a couple years ago, right? You think you're coasting through life. You got a great career. I was running my business, incredibly successful. Life was great. Um, was married, and then in 2018 was when my perfect storm started to brew with a divorce. I had some false allegations hit against me that put me in jail temporarily. Everything was expunged, cleared. It was clearly false allegations, but unfortunately, I still had to go through the whole process. Something that at that time, my 11-year-old had experienced. I lost a lot of money. And was living in a hotel for about 6 weeks. I didn't have to live in a hotel. It was a decision I made on behalf of my son and I. And that was like the beginning of the perfect storm, right? So I'm now going from all within a month, losing a lot of money, going to jail, living in a hotel, to, all right, I need to now figure out the next chapter in my life and trying to survive, and how am I going to overcome all of this? So needless to say, the stress level increases, right? So then you get through those stages and you think, oh, all right, I'm moving along, tracking along. And then COVID hits, and I was in a new relationship. And that ended up unfortunately becoming stressful. And so on top of trying to finalize the divorce, a relationship that was becoming stressful, and COVID, and taking on an executive leadership role, I ended up just starting to have panic attacks, anxiety. So I began to self-diagnose myself as having anxiety and panic attacks, right? So here I am trying to dodge all these curveballs and trying to find solutions and just kind of put some chaos to rest. And as I thought I was putting things to rest, something else would come up and something else would come up, and it was out of my control. It wasn't things that I was creating. It was things that were happening. And that's just part of life, right? Things are going to
Yeah.
come at us unexpectedly, and we have to roll with the punches, but it's our attitude that gets us through it, right? So fast forward a little bit, COVID hit, that became really incredibly stressful because I'm such a people person. I love people. I love being out. I love talking to people. I love hearing their stories. I just think people are just amazing and very fascinating. We all have a story, and I love listening to whatever anybody wants to share, right? So COVID hit me really, really hard. So my stress level went skyrocketed. And it affected every aspect of my life. And I tried to shield it. I tried to hide it. I tried to overcome it. And I was failing miserably. And so I was losing sleep. So between the stress, and I wasn't sleeping more than 4 hours a night, 4 hours every couple of days. And then I started binge drinking on the weekends to suppress all that I was feeling, that I thought I had anxiety and all these panic attacks. And I remember telling the gentleman, because that I was dating at the time, because his son was at my house and the boys, I'm like, I don't want our boys to witness the fact that I'm feeling off. And I remember having these conversations with the gentleman that I was dating for a while, that, I'm just not feeling right. And I'm feeling like, and I couldn't even explain. I'm like, can we just go for a drive? I can't explain how I'm feeling. I'm feeling really off. And I'm thinking this whole time, just because of the stress level and everything that I was experiencing, that it was just anxiety and I was having these panic attacks. And lo and behold, a couple times I'm like, can we, like I said, just go for a drive? And he's like, and here I am trying to explain to somebody who we're still kind of getting to know each other, right? So can you imagine being in a new relationship and being like, you know what, I need to go for a drive because I can't explain it, but my brain is going a mile a minute, and I could actually feel the brain waves, and and I was justifying it as a panic attack and or anxiety. So fast forward, that was like June, July-ish, right? So come September, Labor Day weekend, exactly 2 years to the day that I went to jail, right? Go figure. Exactly two years. I had my very first grand mal seizure, and I didn't know what it was. It was the middle of the night. I was alone, and I thought I was just tired, dehydrated, insomnia. Like, I'm making excuses as to why my legs are feeling incredibly tingling, my nerves inside my body. I could just feel just it's hard to explain, but it's just a really awkward feeling going on. And so I'm losing my train of thought because the light's bright in my eyes. So I'm going to lose my train of thought for about 5 seconds. So I felt the tingling sensation. So I'm stretching, and then all of a sudden I felt pain shoot up my entire body. And I made this really weird noise, like this groan. I'm like, and it was something that I didn't control, right? It just, and I'm like, what the heck? And I remember bouncing on my bed once or twice. And that's all I remember. And then it was like 10 o'clock the next morning. I woke up, and I had plans to go to the beach with my girlfriend and her family because our boys are the same age, and they were really excited about spending Labor Day weekend together. So my other girlfriend needed something from me. So I had explained to her what had happened. She had called me, and I said, I'm not sure, but I think I may have had a seizure. And she's like, well, explain to me why you feel that way. And I did. I told her everything that had happened. She's like, oh my God, you need to call your doctor right away. So I called my doctor right away, and she said she had thought maybe I'd had a stroke. And so I went, she goes, you need to get to the emergency room right away. If somebody can't drive you, call an ambulance, etc. So my girlfriend
Now,
takes.
how long would that feeling last? How long would that episode last? Is that within a minute
When
or?
in the middle of the night, when I had the seizure, the
Mhm, mhm,
convulsion,
mhm.
I really don't know. I just remember like the sharp pain going all the way up. Like my calves were what started, right? So my calves
Mm,
were tingling. And then that's when the pain just went straight up, and I had no control over the nerves in my body.
that's
And I could
scary. And you have
feel,
no one around you except your son.
yeah. And
Wow.
luckily, thank goodness, he didn't witness that one. So
Mm,
I was very grateful for that, but I was still really, really off. So went to the emergency room. They did an MRI, CAT scan. They cleared me of having a stroke, but they didn't really tell me
mm.
what was wrong, or what there was a diagnosis. They were just like, you need to come back on Tuesday morning. We want to do an EEG on you. And I'm like, all right. I still felt very confused and off, and just kind of floating through the
Yeah.
weekend, right?
Mm,
And I slept a lot. I slept on the beach. I slept, like, I just didn't have the energy that I typically would have had. And so I go to the doctor, and did the EEG, and within an hour, my phone rings from a neurologist.
they got the
Um,
results.
and so when I saw the phone, here I am just staring at the phone. I'm like, and I'm alone. And I'm like, okay, um, do I take the call? Do I want to take the call? Do I really want to know what's on the other end of this phone call? Do I want to hear? Because obviously there must be something up if he's calling me right away.
Yeah.
And right, because how often do doctors call you immediately after a
Yeah. Right.
And so the first thing he says to me, I decide, after 4 or 5 rings, I'm going to take the call. And so he goes, Anita, he goes, I have a question for you. He goes, did you ever get in trouble during school for daydreaming, dazing off, losing your
Mm,
focus, not paying attention? And I'm like, no, actually, it was the opposite, because I was very active, talked too much, got in trouble, for talking too much and having too much
yeah.
energy. And then now I'm annoyed, because that's the first thing he says to me. So I'm like, okay, so um, why are you asking me this? And why is this the first thing you're saying to me after my testing this morning? He goes, well, my dear, you have epilepsy. And I'm like, what? Like epilepsy? Like epilepsy? Like what the heck is that?
Wow.
And he
Yeah.
goes, not only do you have epilepsy, you've had it your entire life. And I'm like, wait, I'm 50 years old. Like I'm 50. How do I go 50 years without being clinically diagnosed having epilepsy? How's this even possible? Like, are you sure? Like, this isn't making sense to me. And of course, I'm like starting to tear up. I'm overwhelmed. I'm sad. I'm confused. I'm like, just my mind was like in shock, because I didn't even really know what epilepsy was, let alone how can I go from being incredibly athletic, outgoing,
Hmm.
com-
And you have no indication from your parents that, you have some sort of episode when you were
none.
young or when you were, um, like sometimes I notice that people who have children who have epilepsy, that they have to really monitor the kids when the kids are sleeping, because sometimes it take only a few seconds and your eyes just kind of fluttering, and that's the episode that has happened. But if you don't notice that, you completely can miss it.
Well, there's that, and that is why I am so passionate about educating individuals on what epilepsy is and what it's not, because
Hmm.
that's not all that epilepsy is. You look at me, I look completely
Yeah.
normal, right?
Yeah.
I function very normal, but I also know my triggers, and I also know what can heighten
Hmm.
my triggers. So I'm very cautious, and I ensure that I don't ever put myself in a position to where I could have a convulsion or a grand mal seizure again. I mean, and
Is
that,
there a way to find out that how to prevent it from happen, or when it's happened?
sure.
Like it does?
Well, so it depends, right? So
Uh-huh.
that's all learning what epilepsy is. So after I had the seizure, I learned so much. So after the initial shock, so the first neurologist put me on a high dosage of medication so that I wouldn't have multiple seizures right after the other. And when I started taking it, I couldn't even get off the couch. I was so lethargic. I didn't even care about my responsibilities. I didn't
Oh,
care about
wow.
life. I didn't care. I was
That's the
just like
side effect.
so,
Yeah. How do you
so
cure one thing
lazy,
and yeah.
right? And then I'm
Oh
like,
my
so then
gosh.
like a week later, I called him. I said, this isn't going to work for me. Like, I can't, I am not spending the rest of my life allowing this to define who I am and what
Yeah.
my future is going to, I'm just not. So I got to
Hmm.
figure it out. I don't know how. I have no clue to what I'm doing, but one way or another, I'm going to make things happen. And so he's like, you just need to slow down and let this. And I'm like, yeah, no, 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 no. Like
You
I need
can't tell,
to
you can't
understand.
tell Anita to slow down. Wrong person.
I know it wasn't good enough for me because,
Right.
just to tell me to just
Mm-hmm.
relax
Yeah.
and do nothing and just let this medication kick in was not good enough for
Right.
me. So now, if anybody's watching this, I never want anybody to do probably what I did. I was fortunate. It was a decision I made. I started rolling back on the dosage of the medication. So slowly, I didn't, withdraw from it, but I went like 500 milligrams
Mm-hmm.
less. And I started feeling better where at least I realized where I was, right? I was awake. I was
Yeah.
more in tune to what was happening around me versus feeling like out of it. And then so that's where started my journey. So I started to feel better. Then I'm like, hey, I'm feeling good. I'm going to lessen it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So then I lessened it another 500 milligrams. So all said and done, I minimized it by another 1,000 milligrams. The reason why I share that, because that's truly where my journey began. So I'm like, this neurologist isn't going to work for me.
Yeah.
So as I was starting to feel better, I learned that not all neurologists are created equal.
Yeah.
Not just because you have a title does not make you an
Right.
expert. And so I started eating, drinking, and sleeping epilepsy, what it is, what the triggers were. And, I learned very quickly that stress, insomnia, binge drinking on the weekends, not knowing that I had epilepsy was heightening it. So it was just a matter of time when that
Yeah.
perfect storm was just gonna like really come crashing down. So I really had to become my self-advocate. And,
Right.
and that's really the message. Um, I have so many different audience with this topic matter, right? It's teaching those that
Yeah.
don't really truly understand what epilepsy is. And then it's also giving hope to those who suffer.
I
And
want to share with you too. I think that it's not just epilepsy alone. People get to know their bodies. The people have to pay attention to your own body. Like
yeah,
you said, Anita, not all doctors qualify to tell you exactly what's good for you, because I want to share my own experience as well. Um, some some doctors are pill pusher. As
yes.
soon as you say that you have something, their solution is take this pill, take that pill. And that's exactly what happened to me from time to time. Like, I'm a very hyper type A personality, I think very similar with you. And I don't rest well. I'm always like working from one project to the next, and I'm always like thinking about nonstop. So when I go to sleep, I always think about what I want to do, what I did, what I want to do tomorrow. And there's time that you can't turn it off and you have very little sleep. Like, 3-4 hours sleep is not enough for a
Mm-mm.
day. But if you keep on that for a period of time, like a week or so, it's going to trigger. It doesn't matter, epilepsy or PTSD or anxieties or anything. And for the amount of not enough sleep, I got a lot of anxiety. And the first thing, I went to the doctor, the same thing with you. That's what she did. She told me to take anti-depression medicine. I didn't have any depression,
Yeah.
but and I took it for a month, and it was just not like me. I felt just like you. I felt like I'm sluggish. I'm not driven, and I felt really weird. And again, this is a disclaimer. None of us are professional to tell you what to do, but what you need to do is listen to your own body. And I cut back just like you did. I slowed down. And I don't stop cold, but I take every other day, or then if I feel, certain way, I would slowly and wean it off. And when she gave me month after month, like the prescription is automatic. So every month it just come. And I told her, it's like, that's it. The only way to get better is to go exercise, to force yourself to sleep. and to do other meditation or other things. So I want to kudos to you for doing what is right for your body.
Yeah,
Don't,
and thank you. And I think it's really, really important to share with everyone is that, again, just because you have a title does not make you an expert. And you have to truly become your biggest self advocate.
yeah,
And if something's not feeling right, it's just not right. I was doing everything wrong. I will be the first to admit it, right? I take full accountability, full responsibility to say, look, I was self-diagnosing it. I was binge drinking on the weekends to suppress all the stress that I've been through the last 2.5 years. And I just didn't really
yeah,
care. I
yeah,
mean, now that I'm over that, but
right,
you have to, nobody guided me, not even to this day. Nobody has guided me other than through my own education, my own research, my own trial and error, what would and wouldn't work. And right, so what works for me may not work for other individuals. So my message to those that think that they have the answers to what's wrong with them, and you're still not healing and you're not getting better, you know what? Keep pushing forward to figure it out, because by the time I got to a neurologist, which I love and am so incredibly grateful, her niche and her expertise is epileptic patients, right? So by the time I got to her a couple months later, I had already figured everything out on my own, and she was in very much support. But I'm only what 4.5 months in. I had to really work really super duper hard because I was not going to give in to this diagnosis. And I certainly wasn't going to let it control me the rest of my life,
right,
as to where I couldn't, I've had to make some life changes. And
right,
of course, they're always for the best, right?
yeah,
As we get older, but we have to take self accountability. We have to take self-reflection. Like, I had to dive in deep and say, okay, what was it in my life that was creating all the stress?
right.
I mean, I kind of already knew. It didn't
But
take me long to
I
figure
think
it
the
out what
best
happened.
thing you did, I think the best thing you did is sort out the thing that the drinking is absolutely is not going to help. So, I mean, that is like the top thing on the list that you need to just like cross it off, right?
Yeah.
Sleeping, it's got to sleep 8 hours, and you cross off the drinking, the smoking, the things that is do harm for your body. So the first thing you know that you will get a win by just doing that, and everything else, hopefully exercising and doing other things will
Yeah.
get it back to
But
normal.
sure, but it goes back to self-reflection though.
Yeah,
If we
sure.
are not very mindful and paying
Mm-hmm.
attention to where we are mentally in our lives,
Yeah.
right? We have
Mm-hmm.
to take a look and say, what is it that's creating the stress? What is it that's
Right.
creating the insomnia? What is it that's creating the fact that you feel the need to binge drink, to
Yeah.
suppress all the feelings that you're trying to avoid and ignore, right?
Right.
That is very hard for individuals to take accountability for, right? It's
Yeah.
so easy to blame. It's so easy to make self-diagnosis. And if we are more aware of our emotional well-being and pay attention to those cues and take accountability and really do some self-reflection, you can be the healthiest you've ever been.
Absolutely.
And that's the message here, is that you have to really self-reflect and stop placing blame on anything and everyone else that surrounds you.
Right.
And and even if it doesn't matter, even if circumstances or whatever that you can't control, or, if it's not serving you
Mm-hmm.
and you're not your best
Yeah.
and it's not bringing out the best in you, it's not good for you.
Yeah. And and nobody knows your body better than you, period. You
Yeah.
are the only one who know what's best for your body and how your rhythm, how what to take action. We have a range of choice. We can always make beginning from today to the moment that you realize it. So I kudos to your brand
Thank
new
you.
journey.
Thank
And
you. And I just want to, if you don't mind, I just want to add to what you just said. I think it's also incredibly important that you let go and
Mhm.
work through the past. right?
Yeah.
Don't live in the past. Don't get stuck in the past, because that's what it is. It's just the past. You get
Right.
to control everything moving forward, and how you live your life, the decisions you make, and who you allow in your life. And I think too often we become victim to our circumstances versus realizing that
Yeah.
maybe the journey you're on and maybe the challenges that you're facing will just make you a, well, it won't, it will definitely make you a better person. They're life lessons. They're
Right.
chapters. You can learn from every single chapter of your book, every single chapter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that it's really, really critical. The circle of the people that you put in your lives can actually suppress or increase the stress level that you
Yeah.
have. So it's very critical to choose who you want to surround yourself with too. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I know we can talk a whole lot more because there's so much that I want to ask you, ever since that you begin this journey. Obviously, you have been advocate for a lot of people to take care of themselves and for awareness, for epilepsy awareness. And we're just running out of time right now, but maybe sometime in the future you can come back and tell us, what have you done that successfully, or how do you control that episodic of any more reoccurrence, or hopefully not. There's just so much we can do to help our audience to get on their brand new journey as well.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate the